I want to continue talking about hormone health, hormones and hormone health, and how they relate to cells. And we always say all disease is cell disease, and there's a very important hormonal connection. This worshipful attitude that I take to cells, and I hope you guys are starting to take on as well, this awesome nature of cells, how cells are like conscious little animals, almost like miniature versions, fractal-like versions of the composite that they compose called us. Each little cell is like a little miniature animal or even a miniature human. Each little cell thinks in a way, and it processes information. It has a reproductive system and a nervous system and an excretory system and a skeletal system, and it has its own defensive system. A cell is almost like a little body. It has its own skin, which we call a membrane. These little entities, these little miniature animals, animalcules as they used to be called, have a really, really, really important role to play when it comes to hormonal health. There's a very important relationship between hormones and how healthy or how not healthy a cell is. Cells are like animals. They've got an animal-like nature. But in addition to having an animal-like nature, they also have a machine-like nature. They have input and they have outputs. They have inputs and they have outputs. An output can be something that a cell is making or outputting, putting outwards, putting outside of itself. And output material can be internalized. You can have a cell that's making things that'll just stay inside the cell, output that just stays in the inside of a cell, or output that comes out of a cell, that's extruded externally out of a cell. This input-output nature, how cells will get input from the environment and then output some kind of product, is at the core, the fundamental center of all degenerative disease. All degenerative diseases, from acne to atherosclerosis to autoimmunity to cancer, you name it. All degenerative disease involves some kind of breakdown in this input-output nature. Cells get input, communication, messages from the environment, and in response, they output particular products. They output substances, and it's in this input-output behavior that the core of degenerative disease lies. There's a really interesting science magazine called Focus. I love good science magazines, and I read a lot of them. New Scientist is a good one. Discover, of course, is okay. Not as good as New Scientist, but it's a good one. How It Works is another one. One that I like is called Focus. It's got lots of pictures, it's got lots of easy-to-read articles. It's fun, it's entertaining science for non-scientists and scientists, too. This month's edition of Focus magazine has a really cool story on 3D printing. 3D printing of organs. 3D printing of kidneys, specifically. 3D printing is where you have a printer that actually prints stuff. It doesn't just print paper, it prints material. We talked about this a couple of days ago. You can print forks and screws and widgets and bolts and just anything you want, really. You can, ultimately, they're working on printing food. 3D printers these days just print little parts for toys and for cars and construction material. I remember less than 10 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I first read about 3D printers, and I remember being blown away. And this is just 5 or 6 years ago. I was blown away by the high-tech nature of 3D printers 5 or 6 years ago, and now you can buy 3D printers at OfficeMax or even Kmart. There's a video on CNN.com yesterday about an engineer from Minnesota, a guy named Andrei Rudenko, who designed his own 3D printer that actually extruded or printed layers of concrete shapes and concrete forms that allowed him to ultimately produce a 12-foot-high castle. You can see this on CNN.com. According to Andrei Rudenko, his next project is building his own house, printing his own house. He's going to print a house with his 3D printer that he's going to move into and live. Anyway, according to this Focus article, the next great frontier in medicine, or at least one of them, is going to be cheap organs. This is what 3D printing offers us, cheap organs, 3D printed kidneys, 3D printed livers. The problem with 3D printing biological systems is when you 3D print an organ, that's a far cry from printing a widget or printing a concrete shape. Biological systems are complex and they're intricate. They need to be fed. They're not plastic. They're not concrete. They're alive. And this is one of the reasons that 3D printing, the first 3D printed systems were vascular systems, blood vessel systems. This is according to the Focus article. A bioprinted vascular network, a bioprinted network of blood vessels. This was actually done. This is all, you see pictures of it in this month's edition of Focus. Within 10 years, you're going to probably have organs, starting with the skin for burns. That's going to be the first organ system probably that gets printed, is printed skin. And this is the brave new world that we are about to embark in biotechnology. But cells have been in the biotech business for 4 billion years, nearly 4 billion years. They've evolved to be perfect. Cells have had billions of years to develop perfection, and indeed they are perfect. Cells are perfect, are pretty darn close to perfect, and they've succeeded in not only creating, i.e. printing, biology, not only have they succeeded in printing biological systems, but cells print, do their 3D printing at the atomic level. This is unbelievable. Cells have figured out how to 3D print atoms and then molecules. Cells are molecular 3D printing machines. That is a cell's life. That is a cell's fate. That is a cell's destiny, to be a 3D printing machine. But it is a 3D printing machine that is responsive to the environment. It's a 3D printing machine that depends on signals from the outside environment. And where do those signals come from? Well, I'll tell you when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We will be back with more good health information right after this. Don't go away. Okay, so cells, all disease is cell disease. Cells are little input-output machines. They get input from the environment, and in turn, they output something. Now, that output can be extruded outside of the cell, or sometimes there's output that just stays inside of the cell. Nonetheless, this output is connected to input. Output is related to input, and the input is coming from messages that are approaching the cell, or little conscious 3D printer, from the environment that the cell is sitting in, or the environment that we're sitting in. Either the environment that we're in as organisms, as people, as beings, or the environment that the cell is sitting in. Nonetheless, however you want to look at it, cell's output is dependent on input. A cell is exquisitely responsive to its environment. It depends on signals from the outside environment to do its work. So cells, number one, in order to have their output input, they got to have communication from what's happening in the environment, or communication about what's happening in the environment. And the second thing a cell needs is energy. Those are the two requirements a cell needs to have in order to produce things correctly. And at the end of the day, the raison d'etre, the reason for the existence of a cell, what a cell's destiny is, its fate is to make stuff. That's what a cell does, is to make stuff. If you're sick, your cells aren't making things right, or they're making too much of things, or they're not making enough things, but it has to do with how they're making things. The two major criteria that are going to account for what a cell produces are the hormones, the signals, that's what the hormones are, those are the signals, and energy. A cell learns about the relatively long-term environment, the stable environment, from the steroid hormones. The more water-soluble hormones, steroid hormones are fatty, the more water-soluble hormones, we call those peptides, those communicate short-acting messages. So short-acting, immediate messages, things like that are going to control the digestive system or control the nervous system, those are typically the realm of short-acting hormones, peptide hormones, water-soluble hormones, and the more long-acting hormones for building and repairing and growth and repair, those are the purview of steroid hormones, and they all come from cholesterol. Cholesterol is because of its connection to steroid hormones, is the determining factor that will account for how a cell produces the proteins that are involved with building and growth and repair and anti-aging and fighting diseases. But keep in mind, in order for all of this to occur, in order for our 3D printer at Office Max to work, it needs electricity. In order for our cellular 3D printers to work, they need electricity too. Not just electricity, they need energy. But they also need an effective way to channel that energy into the correct 3D printing mechanisms, and this is the role of vitamins and nutrients and minerals. They channel and direct electrical energy into the right transistors, if you will, or chips in our little computerized entity called a cell, and that will ultimately determine what a cell produces. So all disease is cell disease, and that's merely a description of our 3D printing system going haywire. Disease is our 3D printers going nuts. Our 3D printers, i.e. cells, are not responsive to the environment, or they're hypersensitive to the environment. Our 3D printers are being robbed of energy. They don't have electrical energy. Our 3D printers are robbed of vitamins and minerals and the mighty nutrients, so they're not directing energy correctly. Our 3D printers are being suffocated. They're robbed of oxygen. And our 3D printers are toxic. That's disease, you guys. And guess what? You don't need a doctor to correct it. In fact, not only is there nothing a doctor can do to correct it, all a doctor can do is muck up the system even worse, and that's called a side effect. And that's why side effects and adverse effects to prescription medication are a leading cause of death. What does that say about our healthcare system? What does that say about our medical model? What does that say about doctors who are so proud of themselves as representatives of this medical model when a leading cause of death is their treatments? And that doesn't even include iatrogenic disease, iatrogenic illness, which is hospital-induced. I'm just talking prescription drug disease, prescription drug death, prescription drug adverse reactions. What does that say about our wonderful, deified medical model represented by our wonderful deities, medical doctors? What does that say about the system when a leading cause of death, the fourth or fifth leading cause of death, hundreds of thousands of people, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, die from treatments, from remedies? Dr. Wallach says somebody ought to go to jail, and he's right. It's awful. It's hideous. This is why I do this program. It's awful. The medical model gets an F when it comes to degenerative disease, and the representative of the medical models, I don't even know how they live with themselves. I don't know how they look at themselves in the mirror anyway. So how is it that a cell is responsive to the environment? How is it that a cell listens to the environment? How does a cell get those messages? Well, cells have little openings, little ears, if you will, on the outside part of on their outside coating, the cell membrane. They have these little ears, and these little ears, you can think of them as little spaces. I like to think of them as little sockets. These little sockets are specifically designed to fit specific plugs. A specific socket, a specific plug fits into a specific socket, or if you like, a specific key fits into a specific lock. Whatever metaphor you can think of, you basically have ears or openings or spaces on the outside of a cell, and something sits in these little spaces and initiates a reaction. A key will sit in this little space called a lock, or technically it's called a receptor, and an output effect is initiated. If you're a biochemist, you will call those keys or those plugs or those little things that sit into receptors hormones. Technically, they're called ligands, but we'll call them hormones. This means that hormones, which are going to sit in that lock and initiate an action — remember, the word hormone means I initiate an action or to initiate an action. This means that hormone secretions or hormone interactions with plugs or with locks are the key element to determining what kind of output is going to happen. And if all disease is output disease or cellular output disease, that means hormones have a major role to play when it comes to the formation or development of disease, degenerative disease specifically. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll continue this discussion when we come back from our break. 855-660-4261 is our number on the bright side. We're coming back at you with more good health information right after this. Okay, so hormones are the little signaling molecules that tell a cell what to do. Cells are constantly outputting, like a 3D printer, outputting materials, outputting proteins, outputting molecules. And if you're not as healthy as you should be, if you've got any degenerative health disease, in a nutshell, what's happening is cells are not outputting correctly. They're either outputting the wrong stuff, or they're outputting too much stuff, or they're not outputting enough stuff. And all of this is connected to how they're responding or not responding to hormone signals, and this makes hormones really important. Hormones are command molecules, signaling molecules. It's actually 4 different types of hormones. The most well-known is the ones we talk about all the time. Those are called endocrine hormones, but there's other kinds of hormones too, and we will continue this very important discussion on hormone health and how it relates to degenerative disease and how it relates to nutrition and nutritional strategies on our next Bright Side episode. So you're going to want to tune into that. That'll be tomorrow on the Bright Side. Time to hit our phones at 855-660-4261. We do have a couple lines open for you. If you haven't been able to get on board previously, now's the time to give us a shot. 855-660-4261. Let us help you change your life, and let us help you change others' lives as well with good nutritional information. 855-660-4261 is our number. Let's go off to Iowa and welcome James to the Bright Side. What's up, James? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Ben. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's going on today?
Yeah, man, I discovered your site like a week ago, and I just I got to say, I wish I would have discovered it a couple of years ago.
Nice. Did you stumble onto it? How did you find it?
Yeah, just actually, I was just looking at some of, I just typed in a couple of things I was looking for, and your website popped up, so the
Nice.
longevity stuff, and,
Good deal.
yeah, what's that?
How can I help you? What's going on today?
Yeah, I have been dealing with acne and extremely dry skin. I'm 26, so I've been dealing with it for a while.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if there's anything I can do for that.
Oh, heck yes. Heck yes.
Redness,
Heck yes.
the whole shebang.
We're going to change your life, James. We're going to change your life. We can get your skin to do a 180-degree turn and to begin to improve tomorrow once you start doing a couple of things. First of all,
That'd be great.
I don't want to get into, I don't want to do the whole 7 different types of acne thing, but if you Google 7, or you go on to benfuchsarchives.com, you'll find a search engine. And if you punch in acne, you'll get all kinds of stuff that we've done, all kinds of shows that we've done, and talks, all kinds of information about how to deal with acne. There's different types of acne, but for the most part, if you have redness associated with your acne, you're dealing with some kind of defensive response. And this is a hallmark idea of the bright side. This is one of the major principles that we talk about. Disease, or much of what we call disease, is the manifestation of an emergency response or a defensive response. Same with acne. So the most likely assault on the body, the most likely entrance of offending agents that will spark up a defensive response is food. So the first thing you want to do is notice when your acne flares up. If you have associate those flare-ups with specific foods, it might be helpful for you to do a food diary where you write down everything you eat and then write down how your skin appears or anything that happens to your skin in response to those foods. And you can also do it with digestive symptoms, where you eat a food and then notice digestive symptoms and write those down. And over the course of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're going to start to accumulate data that links foods with specific flare-ups or specific digestive issues. Now, if you know you have digestive issues or food intolerances or food allergies, you're ahead of the game. But even if you don't know it, you can start this accumulation of data process almost immediately. Second thing you want to start to do is make sure you're getting some skin-friendly nutrients into the system, and there's a bunch of them. In fact, some of these will turn acne around almost immediately. This is not to marginalize or not to diminish the importance of food. So I'm going to tell you some supplements, and some really good supplements for dealing with the skin, but please recognize the link between food and digestive flare-ups, or skin flare-ups, between digestive issues.
I have a question.
Let me just finish this real quick.
Okay,
well, okay,
yeah.
Go ahead. What was your question?
Well, I was just going to say, is redness and zits, is that the same thing, or is that two different components?
It could be. It could be the same thing, absolutely. Now, it may be different components, but the first thing is you want to assume that they're connected. Redness always means an alert, some kind of immune response, a defensive response. And the acne, and without seeing the zits, I can't tell you. Where are they located, by the way, on your face?
I got some on my forehead, some on my back and chest.
Okay.
And then I have, the redness is on my cheeks and under my eyes.
That is almost certainly a digestive health issue, almost 100%. I have to see it to be sure, and you'll have to test it out to be sure, but almost 100% that you're dealing with a digestive issue. Probably it has to do with fat absorption. That's what the dry skin is. So here's what you're going to need to do. Number one, as I say, link your flare-ups to specific foods and then eliminate those foods. Number two, focus on fatty nutrients and the absorption of fats. Now, absorption of fats means whenever you eat a fatty food, make sure you're using your ultimate enzymes from Longevity. You can get those on brightsideben.com, or you can call 866-735-2470. Tell them you want the ultimate enzymes. Take them after your meals, 3 or 4 after your meals, and then do a little swig of apple cider vinegar with them. And then in addition, with the ultimate enzymes and with your meals, you're going to want to start to take in some fatty nutrients. Vitamin A is especially important for skin, for acne, as well as for dry skin. So you may be dealing with something as mild as easy to resolve as vitamin A deficiency. Now, if you're not absorbing vitamin A, you're going to have to deal with all the digestive stuff, but get yourself on 20,000 international units of vitamin A. You want to do that right away. You also want to get on 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate a day. And again, you want to do that right away. Do those today. 20,000 IU of vitamin A, 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate every day. Get yourself on the OPC, or the Ultimate Selenium from Longevity. So when you call 866-735-2470 and you ask about the Ultimate Enzymes, make sure you also ask them about the Ultimate Selenium product. And then if you want to throw in a couple other things, well, make sure you're taking the Healthy Start Pack. That goes without saying. And if you want to throw a couple other things in there, get on the Biolumin Nightly Essence and the Fucoidin Z. You should notice results almost right away. I'm talking about a reduction in the redness, especially once you link your skin symptoms to foods. You should notice improvement in the redness almost immediately, and over the course of time, you're going to notice improvement on the back and on the neck, as well as on the face. If you want to add one or two more things, get on something called NAC, which stands for NAC, or an N-acetylcysteine. And you want about 200 to 400 milligrams of that a day, and then also 400 international units a day of vitamin E, and perhaps maybe 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day of vitamin B5. But make sure you're taking it with your Healthy Start Pack and with your Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And James, as I say, you should notice results pretty darn quickly. Within 1 or 2 days, you should notice improvement, and you should notice complete resolution of your acne within less than a month, or less than 2 months, I'll say. Hang tight, James. We'll let you finish up when we come back from our break. If you're on hold, don't go away. We'll get to all our callers. We'll try to get to all our callers when we come back. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. All right, we're back on The Bright Side, finishing up here with James in Iowa. James, buddy?
Yep.
Hello? Here. All right, so a couple of things real quickly. By the time you get acne on the back and on the shoulders and on the back, all the way down to the butt, sometimes people get it on their butt cheeks. You're dealing with a problem that has been percolating for many years, and you're only 26, so I would venture to say you've probably been breaking out since you were a teenager, at least, probably since you were a young teenager.
13, yeah.
Yeah, that's usually what that means, and it usually means it hasn't been controlled or resolved. The good news is once you start to take your digestive, once you start to associate your breakouts with digestive issues, take your digestive health or get control of your digestive health, you'll notice that your skin is going to also improve. And once you get on the supplements, it'll improve pretty darn quickly, especially the zinc and the vitamin A. But don't forget about the NAC and the vitamin E and the vitamin B5 as well, and the selenium. And of course, the Healthy Start Pack is always important just to get you the basics. Good news is you can turn this thing around really quickly. Skin cells, the skin tissue turns over every 4 to 8 weeks. That means within 1 to 2 months, you have a whole new setup, a whole new skin setup, and that means whatever your skin health issue is today, 4 to 8 weeks from now, you don't have to have it, and that is really good news. What else do you have for me, James? Anything?
Yeah, well, I just...
James? Lost James. Okay, I'm sorry about that, James. Call back, and we'll see if we can get you up here. I'm going to go real fast, you guys, because I got a whole bunch of folks who want to get on the line. Carl, the Truth Raider, real quick, welcome to The Bright Side, my man.
Good morning, Pharmacist Ben. Thank you so much for coming up and talking to the group here in Portland, Oregon.
I appreciate it.
It was
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a life-changing event.
Oh, good. Invite me back up.
I shall do. We're thinking about maybe having you come here in January. Well, maybe we'll have a little bigger venue. We'll have several hundred people to come that you can come talk to.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much for setting that up, Carl. Any questions or anything today?
You bet. No, we'll just a little bit. I'll touch on that a little bit. It was like, it's like having your favorite rock group, like a very famous rock group, coming and jamming in your own backyard.
Are you saying I'm am I a pharmacist rock star?
Yeah, you certainly are. You're a celebrity to me and to many others out there, and God bless you, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. What I wanted to talk about today is the importance, after you get a good rainstorm, I find that a lot of people don't do. After a good rainstorm, if the weather's not too cold, if it's comfortable enough for you, go out and take a good walk and take some deep breathing exercises.
That's great. Negative ions.
So nourishing.
Negative ions. That's what rain and lightning does for us. Is it puts electrical energy in the air, negatively charged ions, and highly charged electrical energy, and it's really good stuff to breathe. That's that really wonderful smell that's in the air after it rains. I'm going to move on, Carl. I'm going to take some more calls. Okay, buddy? Thanks for your call.
Okay.
Thanks for your kind words. I appreciate it, too. All right, let's see. Shelina in Texas. What's cooking? Welcome to The Bright Side, my dear.
Hi, Ben. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
My name is pronounced Shelina.
Shelina.
Yes, sir. I have been diagnosed with breast cancer in my right breast.
Okay.
I'm 32 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
And, yeah, it's a shocker. I was, drinking excessively for a while, but had a pretty healthy diet. And upon hearing this news, have turned around my diet to I'm eating vegan and drinking juices.
Be careful of the vegan thing, though. There's a lot of components in vegetables and in grains, especially if you're doing grains, and in soy that can be problematic for cancer. So you want to be a little bit respectful of the vegetable thing. We have this kind of romantic idea about plants and vegetables. As it turns out, there's some toxicity that's associated with plants and vegetables that is not associated with animal foods. So I'm all for eating less animal foods. We eat way too much meat, that's for sure. And milk can be problematic as well. But you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and you want to be very, very careful when it comes to eating vegetables, especially grains and soy when you have breast cancer. There are components called exorphins and phytoestrogens that can be problematic if you have breast cancer. So here's a couple ideas for you. Treat breast cancer and treat all cancers as a sign that the body is swimming in toxicity. It's a toxicity issue. Cancer is a toxicity issue. Cells end up freaking out and not doing what they need to do. Well, the cause of cancer is the same it's the same as the causes of all other degenerative diseases. Cells that are toxic, cells that are starved, and cells that are suffocated. So once you have this toxicity and the suffocation and the starvation, cells can't do their business. What can happen is cells will revert back to a primitive way of dividing, a survival mechanism, and they'll start to divide like crazy. So what do? Well, first of all, fasting is one of the all-time great strategies for dealing with cancer. Now, you have to make sure you've got enough nutrition. And when I say fasting, I'm talking about making sure you're getting your nutrients, but reducing your calories or eliminating in a fast, not eating for a day or two, once a week, twice a week, a couple times a month kind of thing, and then keeping your calories down. Google something called the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is a protein and fat diet that's been used to treat seizure disorders for many years, for thousands of years, really. The Greeks talked about it 2,000 years ago. The ketogenic diet, it fell out of favor when we started using pharmacology for dealing with seizures, but the ketogenic diet can be supportive for breast cancer. You might want to go into either getting a hyperbaric oxygen chamber or using deep breathing techniques. Oxygen is cancer's mortal enemy. Cancer cells thrive under conditions of low oxygen, and they hate oxygen, and they love sugar. So making sure you're keeping your sugars down, and that's one of the problems with the vegan diet, is if you're eating a lot of grains and potatoes and rice, all of which are vegan type foods, those are going to break down into sugar, and those will feed cancer cells. So for you vegans out there, keep in mind, it sounds all well and good that you're only eating vegan and you're only eating vegetables and plants, but if you're eating lots of grains and beans and things that break down into sugar, you're feeding your cancer. Did you know that, Shelina?
I knew that about soy, and I knew that about sugar, but not about the potential for grains and beans. Yes,
grains and beans will break down into sugar rapidly, especially grains, especially processed grains. So you want to be very careful about those. Now, if you're going to do grains, do sprouted grains, or if you're going to do legumes or beans, do sprouted legumes and beans, and that'll be a little bit better for you, get a little bit more protein value. Intravenous vitamin C can be helpful. In fact, Shelina, anybody out there, if you've got cancer, you're dealing with cancer, or you're interested in cancer, send an email to ben@ksco.com, and I'll send you out some articles that I've collected on intravenous vitamin C used for cancer. I know a lot of doctors. I actually talked to a doctor yesterday who called me up. He said, well, I want to know the proof that you're about vitamin C, intravenous vitamin C, and cancer. So I got some articles together and I emailed them out to him. And I'll be glad to send you guys that email as well if you're interested. Shelina, send me an email, ben@ksco.com.
Okay,
Intravenous vitamin C. Also, anything that you could do to help your body build something called glutathione, which is your major cancer fighter. The amino acid.
What is it called?
It's called glutathione. I'll spell that for you. Glutatione. You can have glutathione done, intravenous glutathione if you could find a naturopath to do that for you. Or you can support your own glutathione building by using glutamine powder. You get that at the health food store. You'll also find that in whey protein. Sulfur. And then also selenium, which is majorly anti-cancer, probably the most anti-cancer, especially for breast cancer, by the way. Anti-breast cancer, anti-cancer mineral. You'll find that on the longevity on the brightsideben.com website. Look for the ultimate selenium. Take 400 to 600 micrograms a day. And selenium's partner is vitamin E. So when you're taking selenium, it's always a good idea to throw in 400 international units of vitamin E and maybe some alpha lipoic acid, which is very helpful for the liver. which can also help with breast cancer. There's an important relationship between the hormone estrogen, how estrogen is broken down in the liver, and the development of breast cancer. So breast cancer has a very important liver connection, and breast cancer has a very important digestive connection because the liver, of course, is a digestive organ. In addition to keeping your sugars down, please, please, please eliminate any kind of foods that cause digestive distress and get yourself on the Biolumin Nightly Essence probiotics. So from Longevity, you're going to use the Ultimate Selenium, the Biolumin Nightly Essence probiotics, the Healthy Start Pack, and you should also probably use the Fucoidan Z, 100 milligrams, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Fucoidan Z is also wonderfully anti-cancer. Make sure you're doing your deep breathing techniques. Be careful of those vegan foods. Look into the ketogenic diet. And it probably would be a good idea for you to make sure that you're using the essential fatty acids from the Healthy Start Pack from Longevity. So ask your Longevity rep if you call 866-735-2470 for the Healthy Start Pack. And then also go over to Ben Fuchs Archives and in the search engine punch in breast cancer, because we've talked about breast cancer a lot in the past. And there's some other good ideas that you might want to employ, including the sweeties and keeping your sugar under control. As I say, cancer loves sugar and cancer hates oxygen. In fact, too much sugar and not enough oxygen and toxicity are usually associated with the development of all cancers, including breast cancer. Thanks for your call, Shelina. Oh, one last thing. Progesterone cream can help balance out that estrogen. I forgot about that. If you can get progesterone cream, or if you can use pregnenolone capsules or tablets, 100 milligrams a day. I like the progesterone cream a little bit better. Thanks for your call. God bless you, Shelina. Hope that everything works out for you. Sorry if we left you on hold. Call back tomorrow. Tell our call screener that you are on hold, and we'll get you first up. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Check out my website, brightsideben.com, and click on the Join the Team link. Join me in my mission to educate the world about how important a good nutritional supplement program can be. Have yourselves a wonderful, awesome, beautiful day, folks. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.